Welcome to Building People, Companies, and Careers, brought to you by AccruePartners. I'm Amy Pack.
And I'm Patty Comer. We're your host on this journey through the vibrant business landscape in the Queen City.
This podcast is an extension of our mission statement at AccruePartners, where we have spent over 20 years fostering connections and building relationships.
Whether you're a client, candidate, or business influencer in Charlotte, this podcast is for you.
We are immensely grateful for your support throughout our journey, and now through this podcast, we're excited to share the stories that have defined our path.
So let's dive in.
Let's do it. Welcome back to Building People, Companies, and Careers. I'm your host, Amy Pack. At AccruePartners, we are passionate about building relationships with our clients, candidates, consultants, and thought leaders in our community. Today, I have a special guest with me, Lisa Yankie, CHRO of Odyssey Logistics. Welcome, Lisa.
Thanks, Amy. I appreciate it. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, so we are so excited to have you as our guest on Building People, Companies, and Careers. We always like to start out with the typical interview question of, tell me about yourself.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm a Michigander. There is such a thing as work ethic for the Midwest. And I worked at Ford Motor Company for 12 years. And then Bank of America recruited my husband, Chad, and my two kids and I to the Charlotte region. Best decision we ever made. You know, I just loved Charlotte, raised my family here. So I worked at Bank of America for a few years and then was recruited to more mid-sized companies where it was much more of a build, much more of a roll my sleeves up and get, into the weeds on different things. So I worked in the packaging space, engineered services, med device, and now I'm at Odyssey Logistics. It's a end-to-end full-service logistics company, over $1 billion in revenue, 2,000 employees. We just moved the headquarters here from Connecticut.
Well, that's fantastic. I've never heard the Michigander, but I've learned something new today. I knew you were from Michigan. So obviously the title of our podcast, Building People, Companies, and Careers, through your journey at Ford and Bank of America, then mid-market, you've seen a lot of that. When you hear that, what comes to mind?
I think it's a triage. So people, company, careers. In HR in particular, we maximize our influence in all three of those areas. So it's about development of people, helping people achieve their journey, their career journeys. It's helping a company be successful. So partnering with the business to grow a business, to maximize the value of a business. And then career. So for the organization, making sure that you have the right talent to grow a business, as well as I mentioned on the people side, making sure that you're helping people to maximize their potential.
Yeah. So obviously you've done a great job with that, and that's been a big part of your journey. Being at Odyssey Logistics, you're relocating the headquarters to Charlotte, consolidating operations here. Tell us a little bit about that and maybe some of the aha moments, the interesting moments, and some of the challenges.
Sure. So we were based in Danbury, Connecticut, about 2 weeks after I started this role in September of last year. We announced the movement of our headquarters to Charlotte. So ability to attract great talent, the facilities. So we just moved into a new headquarters actually yesterday. So facilities are professional, access to the airport, closer access to our customers. So all for the right reasons. The C-suite is based here. And we're getting known in the market. So getting our name out there, helping people understand who we are. We're building our employee value proposition. I think the challenge is that people don't know us yet. So they will know us. We're competing with other companies in the region that are much more well-known.
Right. So obviously employer brand is important to attracting talent as you continue this journey. What have you found to be some of the important aspects of that as you've looked to really make that impact? Because Charlotte is a very competitive city, and we are full of a lot of mid-market companies.
Yes, I think that's an advantage to us because we need talent that's agile, versatile. We are a PE-backed company, so individuals that are willing to come in, make an impact, but willing to do the hard work. And so it takes a special type. I think we love that talent has experience at some of these larger companies, have learned what good looks like and how to get things done. And so coming to a smaller company where they can really add value and at the end of the day, see the benefits of the work that you do.
Right. So obviously, AccruePartners and myself personally have been grateful to have the opportunity to work with you. I know when you first landed, it was like, oh, I got to build a team. And obviously, with your strong network and your fantastic reputation in Charlotte, one, you were able to attract a lot of talent just from your own reach in the market. But then the candidates that we had an opportunity to place with you, working through the process was super easy. You're super swift, quick decision maker. The team, everybody was in sync through the process, which made it easy for us to get you to the point that you needed to get to. But why don't you tell us a little bit about what that was like on your end?
Yeah. Well, Amy, I think you've been a great partner. You were amazing to work with, you and the team, of course. And what I loved is that, communication, keeping me informed. I am very decisive. You were a partner. And so even though I said I might have wanted a skill set or a level of experience, you also pushed back or you said, are you sure about that? Or what about this? And so you challenged me as well as a hiring manager. And it was seamless. It was so easy. The communication process where you summarized the candidate feedback along the way, you kept me on my toes.
Well, that's a good thing. I do remember reflecting back and working with your team. We had a candidate that was traveling. Y'all had some logistics. And what I absolutely loved about your team, you were like, we will make it happen. And it doesn't even matter if it has to be after 6 o'clock at night. And that really meant a lot to the candidates interviewing because there were some things that they can't control with their own work schedule. And I thought that just really spoke a lot about the culture.
Absolutely. It's a can-do team, do whatever we can to help support the business. I am so grateful for the team that we've built, and with your help, the collaboration, the teamwork, we have each other's backs. It's amazing. It's a lot of fun.
What would be some advice you might give other HR leaders in the community? I love it when clients say we do a great job. I always tell people it takes two to tango. Like I can't do it by myself, and you and I and the team, your team and my team, we were all really in lockstep. And I always refer back to the AccruePartners business systems, which is a 15-step process that we take all searches through. And in those 15 steps, there's 6 steps that require the client's participation. And without that, we can't get to a positive outcome. But what would be some things that you might share with other HR leaders to ensure that there's a positive outcome and you can get through the journey of a hire in a reasonable pace without losing good talent?
I think the key is accountability of the hiring manager, holding the partner accountable, but also yourself. I mean, as HR, I was the hiring manager, but HR holding the hiring manager accountable for responsiveness, feedback, not waiting to hear back, but making it happen, taking the initiative. Communication is absolutely critical. Listening. What I loved about your approach is that it was very interactive. You were asking me questions. You were interested in getting to know my business and holding me accountable.
Yeah. We try to do that. Sometimes it's a delicate dance. Some people don't like it as much as you do. So thank you. You have it's looking at the organization as y'all continue to consolidate roles here. What do you think might be the next hurdle as you continue to grow? There's always steps to the process.
We are attracting great talent, and every company also needs to think about the other elements. So once you attract the talent, you have to retain the talent, you have to develop the talent, you have to make sure that you have the right org design, the right talent for the future. So we are getting to know the where we want to invest in the community. We are leveraging our values for the company and our company goals to make sure that all of our employees feel valued, feel that they're part of the future. And as we get to know the community and where we want to lean in, I think it's really important to get the organization engaged in community engagement.
Yeah. And there's lots to do in Charlotte.
Yes.
It's a matter of figuring out where you can hang your hat. You can't be all places, as I tell everybody. And you took a leap of faith when you moved to Charlotte.
I did. And went from manufacturing to financial services. That was a big change for me after 12 years.
Yeah. Well, and then you left and went back into manufacturing shortly thereafter, financial services.
On the industrial side, yes.
Yeah.
So engineering and then packaged goods.
Yeah. So you've got lots of a variety of background in different industries, which is exciting.
Yes, I think there are different ways you can chart your career. I mean, one could be being with a company and adding value at that company over the years, taking different types of roles, lattice, not always ladder. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then what I did is, and a lot of it was to keep my family in Charlotte, to keep my kids in one school. I took roles with different companies that were larger roles, but I think the diversity of experience has helped me to see things different ways, see things that could be done different ways, exposure to scale, exposure to different types of businesses, global, non-global, union, non-union, anything that you can think of. So that exposure has been really helpful for me to be
Yeah.
as an HR partner.
Well, and that's good advice for other HR professionals as
Mhm.
they're looking to grow their career is to find
Yeah.
ways to diversify the companies that they're working for and where they go,
Absolutely.
because it gives you a broader perspective and also helps the journey of growing your
Mhm.
career a bit easier.
And I think somebody gave me this advice early career, but your career is a dimmer switch. Sometimes it's up and sometimes it's down. And I'm as a working mom in a industrial environment for 30 years, I always tell someone it's okay. Sometimes your career's up, sometimes it's down, and go with that. You know, you may have a family, you may have aging parents, or activities outside of work, and you can do both.
Yeah, I like that. In today's world, it seems like the generation coming up, they want it up, either want it down or they want it up. They want
Yeah.
the next promotion, the next promotion, or the next promotion, or they want no stress. And there's really no in between. At least that's what I'm seeing. So, Lisa, when sharing thoughts and ideas with other HR leaders, what do you think is going to define and shape HR in the future as technology continues to change? AI is a big topic in today's market. What are some advice and some things on your mind?
You said it, it's technology and digitization, automation. Right now, we're talking about automation in our warehouses. It used to be that the most important relationship that the CHRO had was with the CFO, and that is still a critical relationship. But what I'm finding even more so is the head of technology, the CIO, the CISO, whatever the role is even more impactful because that balance between technology fixes and impacts and the human capital impact that go along with that.
So, in your world, when talking to the IT leaders, and there's this talk, it's not going to eliminate jobs, it's going to change jobs. Are you seeing that to be the case?
Absolutely. I mean, HR is a great example. I love ChatGPT. I use it all the time to write things. And it's interesting though, it fascinates me the programming behind ChatGPT because I can be told that I'm one of the most empathetic people, leaders that someone has worked for, and then I'll write something and it tells me I'm not empathetic. But I think it's just different. And I think the role of HR in change management to help individuals understand that it's evolving. It doesn't mean that all the roles are going to go away. The roles are going to be slightly different, and that change aspect to help the organization on that curve.
Right. There's a big change management aspect to
Absolutely.
it. And y'all are doing a pretty sizable technology transformation. So I would imagine that's really impacting all areas of the organization.
It is very significant. In fact, one of the reasons I came to Odyssey was my CIO. Manit is amazing. He's extremely sharp, talented. We're great partners. He gets my thoughts on different matters all the time. We work really well together. So it's an investment, and that is what we're leading with as a future technology company.
Well, in company candidates and talent, they want to work for a technology forward company. They want to be at a place that they can continue to grow and learn and stretch. So as y'all continue this journey, are you working to upskill talent that you have? Are you changing the way you look at hiring talent and the qualifiers for that?
Right now, our focus is to make sure that we have the right IT leaders to lead in the space. So we've hired some amazing talent with your help again. Really appreciate that. And so looking at the rest of the organization, doing some upskilling in certain areas of the business. There's also in our locations, some of the automation work, we're looking at some, I'm being careful because it's not all public, but a lot of AI drivers that we're looking at in our locations to make the logistics space much more efficient.
That'll be exciting. I'm sure we'll all hear about it sooner versus later. So this year will be interesting with AI. There was an article that came out yesterday about CEOs. 86% were adopting AI, I think it was, but only 26% were ready to get there. 86% wanted to do it. Only 26% were in the driver's seat.
Yeah, I think there is some hesitation, and the knowledge helps go a long way. Education around the value, educating the workforce, but also making sure that you're ready for it.
Right. Right. So we're leaning into Women History Month in March. What advice would you give young women professionals as they enter the workforce, as they begin to navigate the workforce? You came out of manufacturing, as you said earlier, went into financial services, then engineering. What would be some things that you would, pieces of advice you would give?
I think understanding the value that you bring to an organization. So constantly striving to educate yourself, stay ahead of the curve, gain new skills. There are so many times as an HR person, women in particular do not negotiate. They don't ask for the raise. They don't ask for the opportunity. They don't sit at the table, and they don't share their input. And so, using your voice and having that seat at the table, and find others that you can help you with that. There was actually just a woman in one of our sites in one of our warehouses that we wanted to nominate for a leadership award in a logistics magazine, and she declined. And I reached out to her and I said, "Why did you not decide? We'll help you with it. Why did you decline?" And she said, all of the others on the award panel had achieved so much more than I have, and they have much greater experience. And I told her, I said, "You've already arrived. You have the experience." And I reminded her that if she were to have the courage and put her neck out there and get her voice out there, maybe she would help others, because there were other women that perhaps thought the same thing. And so I was able to get her to change her mind about it and just be a little more courageous and put herself out there.
So did she follow through with it?
She did, absolutely.
But you're right. So many women they want to have the voice, but they're afraid to raise their voice or to have a little bit of conflict or to address the negotiation or the elephant in the room. And I do think that if they would just have some confidence around that and one win around it, that it's okay to speak your opinion, and that there's a lot of positives that can come from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, having someone in the room, whether it be a male or a female, sponsor, women and ask, "Amy, I know you have a perspective on this. What do you think?" Or ask a question so that they might feel comfortable rather than just out of the blue raising their hand or their voice.
Yeah.
So getting that impact and that voice out there.
Well, and that goes back to what we were talking about before we started the podcast is you always ask your leaders for their opinion and what do they want to do. And so obviously as a CHRO yourself, you are inspiring your team, whether it's a male or female or whoever, to have a voice. And,
Absolutely.
As I always tell people, it may not be the exact direction, but at least it's another perspective. And you obviously do a great job with that within your organizations and being a leader of people, which is certainly appreciated.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So you were asking me some questions earlier about the relationship, the staffing relationship, and the work that you had done for Odyssey. And I'm curious, from your perspective, what makes for a good partner from a staffing perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question and one I absolutely love. So I always say it takes two to tango, as I mentioned before, but a good partner is someone who appreciates the work that's put into it. I don't know that everybody always understands the work that's put into it. Sometimes people will say, do you have this candidate available? It's like, yeah, let me just see if I can't find them. They're sitting over in the lobby. Let me go get them. It's not that easy. So someone that has appreciation for the art and the craft, and it goes back to you were in the business early in your career. So you have somewhat of an understanding, even though it's changed drastically over the years, even when I started back in the business in the early 90s, if I'm going to date myself now. So it's someone who has an appreciation for it, a company that has a good, compelling story, because candidates want to work at a company that's going places, a good culture, a compelling story, good technology, as we mentioned before, and that will give feedback. Without feedback, we cannot do our best work. And companies should want to give us the feedback because it's their brand that we're trying to protect and help through this process. Just before we sat down to start the podcast, I was helping someone craft an email because we had 4 candidates presented to a client and they interviewed them and no feedback. Well, we don't want to go back to candidates and tell them, I'm sorry, the client didn't give us any feedback. That's the client's brand. So again, it's a partnership, if you will. It's a relationship. And we realize we're not going to win everything. We're in the business of placing humans. And I always say they're an inexact science. And also don't judge me by what happens. Judge me and my team about how we handle it. So, and give, even if it's not positive feedback, right? It's just the way it happens. But there's a couple of layers in there, but those are things that are really important for a strong partnership. And, doesn't matter if you now at Odyssey, it's been a great partnership in places that we've worked with you in the past. You've done a great job with that. And those things are super important and things that we value. And customers and clients that have all those, we make a priority.
Thank you. Someone asked me recently why I chose AccruePartners to fill some of our roles. And it really, truly is the relationship. I think you and I met at an American Heart Association event maybe several years ago. But I have to say, what I appreciate about you is that you nurtured the relationship when I could give you business and also when I wasn't in a position to give you business. And I truly appreciated that. So thank you. And thank you for all that you do for our community as well. I know that you're very active in the community, and that's very important.
Well, thank you. Relationships are important to me. And, I always say the world goes around and you've got to be thankful for the friendships and the partnerships. And I always look at a lot of my clients like you, I would consider a friend.
Absolutely.
And so that is something very near and dear to my heart. So I appreciate you recognizing that.
Thank you.
All right. So let's jump to rapid fire, if you will. So when you think of your best or worst boss, or it could be either or one of both, what comes to mind?
Immediately, I think of this leader that I reported to, the president of a business, and he always asked my advice. Lisa, what do you think about this? Not just about talent or HR issues, but business issues. Always depended on me giving my input, would rely on my expertise. So again, just inclusive, collaborative, involved me in business discussions. On the worst side is, I think, the opposite end of the spectrum. So a leader that I worked for who thought he knew all of the answers and maybe had a fairly high opinion of himself. And I did not enjoy that environment because I wanted to be engaged and involved in the discussion and the dialogue and solving business issues.
Yeah. And obviously you've taken those experiences as you've continued on.
Absolutely. I do tell people, though, you can learn from good leaders, and you can also learn from leaders that aren't so good. And so you learn yourself how you want to be as a leader and learn the good and the bad by seeing both.
Yeah. You know what you want to do or don't do, or where to pivot and what not to do. So I guess leading from that, what would be your first career memory?
Before I worked at Ford, I was in sales at a recruiting firm.
Oh, really? I didn't know that about you.
I've ever told you that. And full time. I had benefits, and I was working on my master's degree, and decided I quit a full time stable job to take an internship at Ford Motor Company, and I commuted actually 80 miles each way to work.
Wow.
But the memory is about the person that hired me. Michael Ferrone was his name, and he took a chance on me. I didn't know anybody at Ford. I didn't know the auto industry. He said he saw something in me that he thought that I connected really well with people. And based on my humble background and upbringing, I would be able to connect with the hourly workforce that I worked with. So I've always appreciated that he took a chance on me. It taught me to take a chance on others. I love to mentor others and help others maximize their impact.
Well, and that's why everybody likes to work for you and why everybody follows you.
Thank you.
Now I have to ask, is that the same Mike Ferrone that's here in Charlotte now?
Nope, a different one.
Oh, I'm
But
like, that's a really small world. All right. So what would be a saying that you are known for?
I think it was R.L. Gray that wrote this quote, but she believed she could, so she did.
And that was in the calendar just last week, I think.
Yes, it was. The reason it's my favorite quote is my mother passed away from cancer. It was about 7 years ago. And when we were cleaning out her belongings, it was the bookmark that was in the book that she was reading when she passed away.
Oh, wow. That's super sweet. Well, thank you for sharing that with
Thank
us
you.
and everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the last question that I'll end with, what is your favorite place, restaurant, or dining experience in Charlotte?
A few. So I like 131 Main. I like the Garrison in Pineville. But my favorite in Ballantyne is Juniper Grill, because that is where you and
That's
I
where we go.
we always meet for lunch. So I love going there and meeting you.
Yeah, it is a great place. And the Garrison is great. I've eaten there a few times.
It's very nice. Nice cocktails.
Yeah, and 131 is always good and consistent.
Yes.
So a little bit of variety there. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today, Lisa. I really appreciate it. And I learned some new things from you. I thought I knew you, but I know even more now. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Amy. It was great to be here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.